Coming up on this edition of Whether or Not, we've got Nature in the News stories on a shiny new satellite, also recent farm preservation efforts in Pennsylvania. Brandon has a feature on how climate change affects the U.S. Navy, and Kristy will have a look at your rainy weekend forecast. All that and more, Whether or Not, starts right now. Hello and welcome to this edition of Whether or Not. I'm your host, Juklo.
And I'm your forecaster, Kristy Steward.
So Kristy, we had record-breaking warmth this week. State College broke its daily record high both Tuesday and Wednesday, 1 degree away from the all-time February record high. We're cooling off now. Any hope for more warmth as we head into this weekend?
Well, we won't be having any record-breaking warmth, but we will be seasonably mild for this time of year, although it will be a wet weekend in store.
Okay, so maybe not the best weekend to plan something outdoors, but at least we're getting a little bit of a break from winter.
Yes, and I will have more details if winter returns later on in the show. We'll
be looking forward to that, but as always, we will start it off with Nature in the News. Department of Conservation and Natural Resources Secretary Cindy Adams-Dunn announced Wednesday newly renovated and replaced fire towers will be added to the Commonwealth's wildfire fighting arsenal. This is to support the Bureau of Forestry and volunteer fire company efforts in answering forest fires. Quote, "We must always take wildfires seriously. That's why I'm delighted to note our Pennsylvania wildfire fighters are getting yet another weapon in their detection and suppression efforts, a new tool with a rich, storied past," said Dunn. Pennsylvania's wildfire fighting force is viewed as among the best in the nation, and for good reason. They have excellent training, the latest equipment, and a can-do spirit that sets them apart when they fly out to help other states or fight wildfires in the woodlands of Pennsylvania. The new fire towers are sturdier to meet today's structural and foundation code requirements. They will be safer to ascend with improved stairs and railings and be topped with weatherproof cabs.
There's a new glimmering star in the night sky for you stargazers to spy. Humanity Star was launched into space from New Zealand on Wednesday. It is a geodesic sphere made up of 65 highly reflective panels that orbits the Earth every 90 minutes and is visible to everyone around the world. It is most noticeable around dusk and dawn. Because of its shape, the star will look like a light blinking across the sky. The goal of Humanity Star is for us to put our lives into perspective when we see it and realize what's really important. However, Humanity Star will only be visible for a few months and will orbit the Earth for 9 months before Earth's gravity pulls it back into the atmosphere, where it will burn up upon entry. The best chance for us to see it will be in early March, so keep a watchful eye out for a new shimmering star in the sky.
Last week, the Agricultural Land Preservation Board approved the preservation of 28 farms covering over 2,000 acres in 16 Pennsylvania counties. The board also approved the 2018 spending threshold of $37 million, which pushes the Commonwealth's total commitment to farmland preservation to more than $1 billion since 1988. Governor Tom Wolf is proud of the achievement and says today is a good day for the families who are committing their farms to the future of agriculture in Pennsylvania. For 30 years, the agency has been investing in the future of agriculture as a Commonwealth, protecting the most fertile lands from threat of development. Some of those 16 counties include Allegheny, Beaver, Berks, Center, Lancaster, Lebanon, Lehigh, Northumberland, and York. Since the program began in 1988, federal, state, county, and local governments have purchased permanent easements on over 5,000 farms, totaling almost 550,000 acres in 59 counties for agricultural production.
This has been the coldest winter in 3 years, and the Great Lakes are proof of it. So far, about 70% of the lakes are covered in ice, which is 5 times more than last year's coverage, and it's possible we haven't even reached peak yet. Our own Lake Erie is 92% frozen, which has been wreaking havoc on the shipping industry but boosting the ice fishing industry. With Lake Erie's surface almost completely frozen, icebreakers are needed to create shipping lanes. But frigid air has required more frequent path carving, and gusty winds have shifted ice into already cleared lanes, slowing down the shipping process. However, the lake full of ice has been great for ice fishermen. More fishermen and tourists have come to ice fish, and many outdoor sporting goods stores have been selling more fishing equipment. All of this ice means it's likely we will experience a lingering chill across the Great Lakes with a cooling effect near the shores going into this spring. We had a couple of warm, record-breaking days this past week, but spring has not arrived yet. Temperatures will be cooling down this weekend, accompanied by some rain showers. On Friday, we will have a dying low pressure system off to the north, and that will bring a cold occlusion down through Pennsylvania, and it will bring some cooler temperatures with it, along with some rain showers. And then on Saturday, we'll be seeing the remnants of that system bringing us continued rain showers, and for your Sunday, another dying low pressure system that came from the Midwest will make its way over the Great Lakes and bring another cold occlusion through Pennsylvania, so we will be seeing some more cooler temperatures and some rain showers for your Sunday as well. A closer look at this on Friday, we're looking at temperatures cooling down to the lower 40s. It will be very wet outside for your Friday, so bring some rain gear with you as you're headed to class or work on Friday. And then it doesn't get any better for your Friday night. It will still have continued rain showers with temperatures remaining in the lower 40s. And then on Saturday, a little bit warmer. Temperatures will be in the lower 50s, but still seeing those rain showers persisting on Saturday and continuing into Sunday. Although Sunday afternoon and evening, we are expecting these showers to taper off. Temperatures on Sunday will also be in the lower 50s. But the good news is next week we are looking at drier conditions, and some sunshine will return to central Pennsylvania. I'll have more details on that in just a couple of moments. But first, here is a feature from Brandon on how climate change is affecting the Navy.
Well, as I'm standing here in beautiful 70-degree weather, just as the sun's setting behind me here in the middle of February, it kind of got me wondering how this might relate to climate change, as well as how that climate change might relate to future impacts on the United States Navy. As a future naval officer, my career and where I'm deployed could very well be a result of how this climate change has an impact on the Arctic environment. And so in order to tackle these issues, I had the privilege of speaking with retired Navy Admiral, Rear Admiral David Titley, on how he thinks climate change might impact the U.S. Navy in the coming decades. With an abundance of resources and the opening of more northern shipping lanes, these Arctic countries have a strong desire to protect their economic and political interests in the area. The shrinking polar ice cap has put U.S. national security in an increasingly vulnerable position. Although the U.S. has only one Arctic territory, Alaska, having a strong presence in such a viable and untapped region should be of the utmost importance to the U.S. government. While claiming resources in the Arctic remains important for a lot of countries, ensuring safety and strategic deterrence in the region must be prioritized by the U.S. military. And this prioritization is echoed by the ideas brought forth by retired Rear Admiral David Titley.
Yeah, so really there are three areas. The one area where climate really impacts security is changes in the operating environment itself. And what I tell people when I speak to the Pentagon or when I speak to congressional staff members or the members themselves, like on the Armed Services Committees, is the reason the Pentagon cares about climate change is this is fundamentally about readiness. We want to make sure that our soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines have every advantage possible when they go downrange and carry out the nation's business, whatever that is, projecting presence, power, and when called upon to fight and win. That's what we do. So what we need to do is to understand not only those operating environments today, but tomorrow, so that we have the right training and the right equipment for our operating forces, so that they can not only be effective, but when called upon, prevail against any adversary. So I tell people this is not about hugging trees or saving whales or being green. This is about readiness, and that's why we care.
Infrastructure in the continental U.S., specifically military bases near the coasts, could be greatly affected in the coming decades as a result of climate change. Rear Admiral Titley describes how military bases might combat these issues.
Yeah, there's going to be a whole bunch of changes. Again, whether we want them or not, whether they're good or they're not good, is for the military is almost irrelevant. Things like the bases, and of course the Navy is particularly susceptible to sea level rise. I sometimes joke and I say, unlike the Air Force, we can't just pick up everything and go to Minot, North Dakota at 5,000 feet above sea level. We will be at sea level. It's a ship thing. That's where they are. But as that rises, we got to figure out how do we do this. So if I was protecting a town on infrastructure, I would say, okay, our decision today is how do I build the very base? How do I make sure I have enough land so if I have to build a 2, 3, 4 meter wall or a levee, I can do it. It's like, okay, when the water gets to here, I better start finding the money. When the water gets to here, I better start pouring concrete. When the water gets to here, I better go from 1 meter to 2 meters, etc. And that'll work probably for pretty much for this century. But if we don't get a handle on greenhouse gases, that water keeps coming up, and at some point, you're probably not building a 7 or 8 or 9 meter wall. And then what do we do?
Well, with my commissioning date into the U.S. Navy set for just over a year from now, I was able to get some great advice from Rear Admiral Titley. One thing he did mention to me was that if I stay in the Navy for long enough, I might see and have to deal with polar ice caps melting completely in the summers. Well, right now I'm just trying to look forward to spring break. And for whether or not, I'm Brandon Sawyer.
After a wet and dreary weekend, we will be seeing drier conditions and the sun will be making a return for your upcoming week. But first, let's look at this rainy weekend that we have in store for us. On Friday, temperatures will be cooling down to the lower 40s and we'll be back on the rise to the lower 50s for your Saturday and Sunday, but this rain will be persistent throughout the weekend, finally starting to taper off by Sunday afternoon and Sunday evening. And then for your Monday, there comes the sunshine returning to central Pennsylvania. It will be nice and sunny for Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Temperatures will even be raising up to the mid-50s on your Wednesday, which is about 15 degrees above average for this time of year. So still some warmth out there. And then on Thursday, clouds start to move into the region. Temperatures begin to drop. We'll be left with a cloudy Friday and temperatures right on that average line of about 40 degrees for Friday, just ahead of another system that will be approaching the Commonwealth.
Well, Kristy, certainly looks like a wet weekend, but I'll be looking forward to that dry spell next week, finally.
Yes, it'll help us recover from that wet, rainy weekend that we have in store.
And hopefully we can get some clear skies to see that new satellite you were talking about.
Yeah, that would be pretty neat.
Speaking of satellites, we asked you earlier in the show, when was the first GOES weather satellite launched? Was it A, 1962, B, 1967, C, 1972, or D, 1975? Going back a few decades, if you said D, you are correct. The geostationary operational environmental satellite was first launched by NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, back on October 16, 1975.
The GOES satellites have been vital in environmental and meteorological studies and research, and vast technological advancements have been made. GOES-S, the newest model, will be launched sometime next month and will join GOES-16 in providing weather information and stunning close-ups of our planet.
Boy, hard to believe how far we've come.
Yeah, we have come a long way. We can see resolution as low as half a kilometer now.
Yeah, I feel like we take it for granted now. Meanwhile, back in the 70s, this was like the iPhone.
Yeah,
Big
it
thing
really
in
was.
the weather
Yeah,
community. And we'll be putting that satellite to good use this weekend, tracking that rain.
absolutely. It'll definitely come in handy.
Well, that is all the time that we have for this edition of Whether or Not. I've been your host, Juklo.
And I've been your forecaster, Kristy Steward.
Have a great weekend, everybody.